Okay, I'm going to give you like a broad overview of how I use CreateSpace to format my books. First of all, I want to show you this title. I've already started the cover for the next book, and I'm letting you get a preview of it. Doesn't that look nice? You can get all this done at CreateSpace. They're great. They have they take you step by step so you can build a cover for your book, and it works out really good. I really love Amazon is great. Okay, now here is the page layout tab. When I set up a book, I click on this, and then down at the bottom it says custom margins, and this is really important because the custom margins shows you how to do your margins for your book so that you have a nice, just the right amount in the gutter and in the top and the bottom and on the sides. And so you click on the page layout tab, and at the bottom it says custom margins, and then you click on that. And when you click on that, these are the margins I found works best for a 6x9 book. You like mirror margins, and I put like 6.65, 0.65. I believe that's for the top and the bottom. And I find that 0.5 works good for the gutter and then for the outside margins. I've just learned this from trial and error. And that's for a book of about 300 to 400 pages. It works really good. It looks nice. It looks almost like it would if it... Okay. Then the next one is paper size. Well, I like 6x9. That's a standard size for publishing. So what I do is I choose 6x9 and then just do the default tray there. And this is how I set my books up when I format them for CreateSpace. So I'm my own book designer, and I use Microsoft Word 2007 to do it. So this is the paper size. And you get all this on the page layout tab. And then next after that is layout. And as you can see here, you can specify your header and your footer. And this is how I have it set for my book, The Forbidden Abyss. And like I said, I had to practice to get what I liked. And so my Silver Skies was like rehearsals, and Forbidden Abyss I'm getting better at formatting my own book. Okay, then after that you get the line and page breaks tab. And I like to have no widows and orphans, so I put that up at the top because it gives it a more professional look, no widows and orphans. That just means you don't have these one-liners. It doesn't work perfectly, but it helps. It looks kind of tacky to have like one-liners or like I try to make it look professional, so I checked no widows and orphans. That's what that means. Okay, then you have the indents and spacing. Now, if you'll notice, this is centered. If I was doing this down the body of the text, then I would want I'd want it to be towards the top. So the indents and spacing, this is what I usually do for that. I have margins 0.2 because that's how much I like when I hit a return, I like it to indent about 0.2. Okay, then you have hyphenation. I just choose automatic hyphenation. It makes for a more professional appearance. The lines appear more even, and it just looks good. But the problem is when you choose automatic hyphenation, if you don't save your work as a PDF file, it won't take when you submit it to CreateSpace. So you have to submit it as a PDF file. Then they're going to say that because I can't embed fonts from my computer. Anyways, you have to embed the fonts. I mean, they do it for you. And it works pretty good. Okay, the orientation is obviously portrait. You don't want landscape because landscape is like a really too wide. Portrait would be a 6x9 book. But as I was saying about hyphenation, I've found that even though I can't embed the fonts on my PDF file, that CreateSpace will do it for me, and they do a good job. So it works out good for me. Okay, now we're doing heading. Okay, every chapter heading in your book needs to be under heading 1. That sets it up for your table of contents, so your table of contents will work. And so you highlight your chapter heading, then you choose heading 1 on the Home tab. And you need to do that for every single. You'll see like these two little dots to the left. That means it took. You see right there, those two little dots. That means it took. You've got it set up for heading 1. Okay, then after you do that, then you insert your table of contents. And you just click right when you click in the table of contents, and boom, it just shows up. And you insert insert your arrow where you want. You put your mouse where you want the table of contents to go. Then you just go click right on table of contents, and pew, it just lands right in there. Once you've done all the heading 1s and all the titles, and then it just works like that. I'm giving you like a broad overview of what I do when I, okay. Then after that, you do the footer. Now this I cannot do justice, but this is the footer tab. And this is how you get to your footer. You hit down at the bottom, it says edit footer, and that's what you want to get to. And that's how you go in and you put your whatever you want in your footer. Usually it's a page number. And I usually like to use Arabic numerals and not Roman numerals, but everybody's different. So I usually, anyways, this is how you get to the edit footer tab. Okay, when you're into the edit footer tab, the previous link is really important. Okay, then you have the page number tab. This is where you go and you can design your page number, whether you want it center, left, right, or whatever, and then after that, this is how you get to the page number format link, which is important. And then when you get into that, this is where you can decide whether you want it to be Roman numerals or Arabic numerals or whatever. And it's also you'll put your mouse where you want it on the foot. You'll put it right on the footer, and then specify what page number you want on that particular footer. And this is where you do it. It's more complicated than that, but this is how I format my books for CreateSpace. And I'm just letting you know, I have to format all my own books because I can't get a literary agent because the Jesuits. Okay. So. I have actually gone to the trouble of using different fonts when I'm published. I'm getting really good with CreateSpace now, so I can do this. This is a 10-point font. Let me get this out of here. This is a 10-point font, and as you can see, it's not that bad. And for most people, this will work fine. But there are some people that would not be able to read this. Maybe older people or people with vision problems, visually impaired. And what I did was, as I was experimenting, this is the first version that I made of, and I've noticed the margins out here are kind of wide. So in the second version that I did, I made this margin narrower so I could put more words on the page, and by so doing, I could increase the font. Now here's the 11-point font. See, that's what I used for Silver Skies. It's a little bit bigger, and so I have two options now for the Forbidden Abyss. You can get it in the 11-point font. And that's a little bit more money because it's more pages. Obviously, you need more pages if you have larger size text. And this was from Silver Skies that I formatted at CreateSpace. And then here is 10 point. You can see that's smaller. That's the 10-point font. Some people would rather have a lighter book, and they don't mind, having smaller text to read. So for those people, the 10-point font like this would work just great. Here's the back of the book. But for other people, they would rather have a larger font, and they don't mind maybe the book being a little heavier. What's nice about Kindle is with Kindle, you can change the font as you're reading it. So I don't actually have a Kindle. I have a Kindle PC, and I just read the Kindle books on my computer. One of these days, I would love to get a Kindle because it's so lightweight. It's not heavy like a book. And you can have white lettering against black or black lettering against white. You can change that. You can change the size of the font. And so people are getting kind of spoiled now because they know they can have Kindle. So I thought I'd give my readers the option between with the Forbidden Abyss between a 10-point font and 11-point font. You might say, well, why don't you go bigger than 11-point font? Oh, then the book would be like 600 pages and it would just, nah. So I decided to give those two options. So the 11-point font is pretty good. See, that's pretty good. That's not bad. That's a pretty good size font there. So you can't really tell from here, but. And the way at first I wasn't going to do this because this book is longer. The Forbidden Abyss is longer than Silver Skies. It has more words. But the way I've made up for it is, see how I have these huge margins here on the edge and on the inside? Well, I narrowed those margins. I figured out with CreateSpace how to do it so I could put more words per page. And that way I could make the books cheaper and still increase the size of the lettering. So that's how I did that. And so I have two options. Though if you want the 11-point font, you'll be paying about $1 more per book. And you might say, why don't you just go through a regular publisher? I tried to do that with Silver Skies, and I sent off like 100 letters to literary agents. And the only response I got back was from one who wanted me to totally change Silver Sky. She basically wanted me to change the point of view. She didn't like my omniscient point of view, which is like God's eye. And she wanted it to be third-person limited, but that isn't how I wrote it. She seemed to have this idea that if it's not third-person limited, it's no good. I understand where she's coming from. It's kind of hard to go into all this, but when you're a writer, you want your reader to lose themselves in the story, and they can usually do it when you limit the point of view and you don't have, the God's eye point of view is where you could have 2 or 3 characters in a scene and you can get into the minds of all of them. Whereas with the limited point of view, you basically just get into the head and the heart and the soul of one character per scene. And I tried to do that in Silver Skies, but there are advantages to doing that. And what I try to do is I do it with the omniscient or all-knowing God's eye point of view, but I try to keep it pretty much to one character per scene, but I find that the God's eye point of view works best for me. And that's what they say you should write what you like to read, and like Exodus is written in omniscient point of view, Thornbirds is written omniscient point of view, Gone with the Wind. It's kind of a little more, I'm not going to go into all this because this is not a writing course, but anyways, to make a long story short, I would send these letters off to literary agents, and I could tell my letters were being switched out, that they weren't getting what I wrote. The Jesuits have agents in the Postal Service, and my letters, I know, got switched out. And either the agents didn't get my letters, or the letters they got were not what I wrote. Finally, I said, I'm not going to be able to beat this, because if I have to use the U.S. mail, you say, well, what about email? They could do the same thing with email. They have that technology. You say, well, how do you win? If you write something the Jesuits don't like, how do you win? That's the reason I decided to publish myself using CreateSpace. The other problem was finances. And before I had the internet, I was dumb enough to go with Rose Dog Books and pay them a couple $1,000s. And they did a lousy job of formatting my book. I do a better job myself, and I don't pay anything for it. I do all the work. They did a lousy job. That horrible cover that I have in the first one, you wouldn't believe what they tried to put up for the cover. It was horrible. I found out later that the Jesuits took over Rose Dog, so that's a ripoff. And when I look at the Kindle formatting for the Silver Skies for their book, it stinks. I do all my own Kindle now for all my books. I do a better job than if I have to pay somebody to do it. So I don't really pay anything. I do all my own work. The only thing I have to pay for is to buy the author copies. Everything else is free at Amazon, CreateSpace, and Kindle. Anyways, that's why I do it, because the Jesuits just cause too many problems, and I found I have to self-publish and do my own book formatting.